In fact, she spent the night here in India, while reports suggest that she may soon fly to United Kingdom and seek asylum there. Meanwhile, protesters celebrated on the streets of Bangladesh. However, many of them were even seen ransacking the Prime Minister's residence and indulging in violent activities. Army has called protesters to refrain from violence and return home as they assure to form an interim government likely by today. Bangladesh opposition leader Khalida Zia has been released from jail following Hasina's resignation. Meanwhile, India is keeping a close eye on the developments in Bangladesh. The Border Security Force is also on high alert. Security has been hiked along the India-Bangladesh border in light of the recent developments. BSF chief will also visit the border today. According to sources, nearly 13,000 Indian students are stranded in Bangladesh, while 8,000 students have returned. All right, to better understand this, I'm given to understand Muhammad Yunus, a Nobel laureate, joins me on the broadcast today to, of course, further understand the given situation as well. Mr. Yunus, thank you very much for taking the time out and joining us here on Mirror Now in this exclusive. Let me begin by first asking you this. Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina did leave the country. Are you concerned with the uncertainty at the moment?
No, we are celebrating that finally we came to the point with the jubilant crowd on the streets enjoying the freedom they finally earned after many deaths of the young people, young kids, older people, lots of people every day, every hour. So that's a celebration there. It's like a jubilation that we had during the Liberation War. There's a Liberation Day today, second Liberation Day. So that's the kind of festivity that's going on right now.
And as you point that out, but in fact, all of this has happened after weeks of protests, over 100 lives being lost. We looked at how the intensity of the situation there. There are police stations which were burned, minorities whose homes are being targeted. Surely the situation from the law and order perspective is far from desirable.
You are looking at something from one side. You're not looking at all the young people demonstrating. They're getting killed every day. It's the government bullet hitting them. They brought the police, they brought the paramilitary, they brought the military, they got curfew, they have everything. And then in that, you're saying that they are doing everything else. They're saving their life was the most important thing for them. While the government is shooting at innocent people. They have curfew days after day. They had the shoot to kill to order for everybody, from police, paramedical, army, and also the army itself. So that's the situation they have emerged from. They continued their march on the street. They continued their struggle to make sure they're successful. Finally, they changed their, in a desperate way. They said, only way we can succeed, Hasina must go. So they became one point demand, and that finally Hasina has to go.
In fact, as you pointed out, one of the images of a Sheikh Mujib statue being vandalized is on the screen. How do you think things have come to such a pass?
Yes, that's what I've been telling. I said, Hasina has made people's minds so bitter. They now even attack her father. So it's the bitterness which accumulated among the people now expressing them, because finally she left, so they have to express that. So it is the fault of the person who created this environment for.
In fact, as you point that out, India's perspective of Sheikh Hasina, of course, she's physically present here in India. You have been critical of India in the past. But what are your expectations from India at the moment?
I keep saying that India is our best friend, have the possibility of becoming a best friend, but instead they focused on not on Bangladesh, they focused on one person. So their relationship became one-person relationship. This is a wrong relationship. Now that Hasina has failed in doing things for the people, so the people are angry at India because you are supporting the person who destroyed our life. So we have to go back, and I urge Indian policymakers to redesign your policy, whether you want to again find the person to support or a country to support, people of the country to support. This is very important thing because item after item we saw India is focusing on the person.
Right, Mr. Yunus, as you pointed out, I want to thank you for taking the time out and joining us here on this Mirror Now exclusive. But for the moment, we'd have to leave the conversation at that. But of course, we'll continue to track all the developments as far as the situation in Bangladesh is concerned. In fact, just like that conversation happened right now, we were talking about how these demonstrations have intensified over the last couple of weeks. You're looking at the visuals of the same that we did essentially look at when the protesters had come together, given the current situation. And what we've looked at after that mounting pressure, there was a lot of clamor, remember, for Sheikh Hasina to be resigning, and after which we did see that happen yesterday. But the manner in which it has panned out for the country, also several questions about what next, how would this really pan out in terms of not just the ground zero situation for Bangladesh, but also geopolitically speaking, what could be the implications of the same. Having said that, remember, Sheikh Hasina did flee to India, but there are no reports yet as to what the next plan of action is. But I do understand Times Network consultant Srinjoy Chowdhury joins me live on the broadcast, in fact, from the newsrooms this morning. Srinjoy, a very good morning to you. Thank you very much for taking the time out to help us draw better perspective given the situation at the moment. Of course, many conflicting reports as to what this would essentially mean for Sheikh Hasina at the moment. Of course, she did take shelter in India yesterday, like we did see that. But let's begin by talking about essentially what it means for Bangladesh and her, given what the situation that we're looking at, Srinjoy.
Well, first of all, things are not very good in many ways. Yesterday, we've heard that there have been attacks on minorities, and one Hindu MLA has been killed. That is the report we are getting. That's, of course, the first thing. But beyond that, what the army wants people to settle down, people to go home. And then there can be talks with the students, there can be other talks with other people, and things could come to a settled situation. But that hasn't happened so far. There is still a lot of fighting in the streets, a lot of trouble still happening. That's the first thing. Of course, the students have said that Mr. Yunus of Grameen Bank should be the president. Now, he was someone who Sheikh Hasina absolutely despised. And of course, he has a Nobel Prize in Peace. He is very close to parts of the establishment in the United States, Hillary Clinton and other people. So he is a candidate, at least according to the students. As far as India is concerned, Sheikh Hasina has been very helpful. Over these years, one of the first things she did was to ensure that all these terrorist camps, all these insurgent camps of Alpha and the other groups were uprooted and were removed from Bangladesh. That improved the law and order situation in the northeast states enormously. And for that alone, India has to be very grateful. The second thing that India has achieved in the era of Sheikh Hasina has been the closer ties with Bangladesh in terms of logistics, waterways, roadways, railways, electricity, all of that helping India, helping Bangladesh, and helping Bhutan. Now, these things, we will have to see if this will continue. The third thing, of course, has been this issue of minorities. Sheikh Mujibur Rahman was a very secular man. He used to say, we are not Hindus, we are not Muslims, We are not Christians. We are Bengalis. Sheikh Hasina, it has to be said, followed that same principle. But now, while no one will say this, but the attacks on minorities there have been scattered attacks on minorities. As I said, one MLA has been killed, is the report we are getting. So there is a little bit of a concern there. Of course, the borders have been strengthened. There are a lot of BSF troops all along the border with Bangladesh. What we are also hearing is that lower level people from the Awami League may try to come into India. They may seek asylum in India. So we'll have to see what happens there. As far as Sheikh Hasina is concerned, we are getting reports, not fully confirmed as yet, that she may want to live in India. Now, the initial reports we got was that this would be a sort of staging post. She will go from here to either England, where her niece is part of the establishment. She is a very major leader in the Labour Party, the ruling party in Britain now. Or she could go to Finland. Her nephew is married to a Finnish girl. But we are hearing now is that she may want to stay in India for a longer period. Now, how India handles that is something we will have to see. But this is what we are hearing, that Sheikh Hasina, currently in India, may want to live in India for a longer period of time. So that is one option. This is something the government of India will have to deal with. We don't know the final situation, how the government will see this. But at this point, we know that she has a feeling that she may want to live in India for a longer period.
Srinjoy, as you point that out, of course, the question will also be with the fact that India and Bangladesh, the kind of relations that they have, enjoyed over the past couple of years, so to say, how do you see that being impacted? And in your opinion, geopolitically speaking, what could be the implications?
Well, India and Bangladesh have been very close for the last 15 years. There's absolutely no doubt about that. Now, it also has to be said that Sheikh Hasina and India had very close ties. When Sheikh Hasina's parents, Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, her mother, her three brothers were killed, and other members of the family, she sought refuge in India. She lived in India for several years. And the one person who ensured that she was properly looked after was a man who later became President of India, Pranab Mukherjee. And this is something which is in the public domain. Everybody knows this. And Sheikh Hasina used to refer to Pranab Mukherjee as Dada, her elder brother. About that too, there is no doubt. Now, as far as this current government is concerned, well, India has had some kind of contact with Tariq Zia. Tariq Zia is Khaleda Zia's son. He lives in London, but in some ways, India has been in touch with Tariq Zia. We know that the Indian authorities were in touch with Tariq Zia not before these elections, but certainly before the last elections in Bangladesh 5, 6 years ago. So there has been some little contact with Tariq Zia. India's main concern is the Jamaat, because the Jamaat is very resourceful. It has a lot of money. It has people. And it does not favor a pro-India policy. So what happens with the Jamaat is something that India will be concerned about.
Srinjoy, as you pointed out, we were also in that exclusive conversation with Nobel laureate Muhammad Yunus, who did speak about the fact that as far as India-Bangladesh relations are concerned, he believes, in his opinion, it became more about one person, that is Sheikh Hasina, rather than the relations about these two countries. And at some point, if we were to infer from that conversation with him, he says India would have to choose between Bangladesh and Hasina. How does one read into a statement like that?
Well, that is his point of view. He's welcome to have his point of view. But we know that even he has very strong support, or at least he had, in the West. I remember one time Hillary Clinton, then Secretary of State, called up Pranab Mukherjee, who had just become Finance Minister of India. This was some years ago, obviously, and she wanted Pranab Mukherjee to speak to Sheikh Hasina and intervene on behalf of Muhammad Yunus and ensure that Muhammad Yunus got a big deal, a better deal, and was not troubled. And when Pranab Mukherjee did speak to Sheikh Hasina, Sheikh Hasina was intransigent. She refused. She said that he's like a Shylock, etc., etc. So the relations between Muhammad Yunus and Sheikh Hasina and the Awami League were never very good. So even Hillary Clinton speaking to Pranab Mukherjee to speak to Sheikh Hasina did not work. Can you imagine? So relations were that bad. So you would expect Sheikh Muhammad Yunus to say this about Sheikh Hasina, because that is how relations were. But we will have to see how things work out. Muhammad Yunus, after his Nobel Prize, came to India. He was received well in India. India has no problem with Muhammad Yunus. So we will have to see how things work out. But it has to be said that there has, the Sheikh Hasina's going has been a loss for India, because India committed to Sheikh Hasina, India believed in Sheikh Hasina, and Sheikh Hasina supported India to the extent that she could. Now a new chapter begins, and it could be a difficult chapter.
Right, Srinjoy. On that note, I want to thank you for joining us with not only the latest and reading into the situation, but helping us draw more perspective, not only what this means for Bangladesh, but of course, geopolitically speaking, the relations between the two countries that they have enjoyed over the few years. Having said that, we leave the conversation at that, but also slipping a quick break here on the big story. Stay with us. Lots more coming up on the other side.